Number one is, how many people love Oakwood? Raise your hand if you love Oakwood. Excellent. How many people love Oakwood Academy? Love Oakwood Academy? Excellent, excellent. How many of you love to hang out with your fellow Oakwood people? Yes? That is spectacular, because next weekend we have a chili cook-off that we expect everyone who had their hand up to be at. So please make sure you come out. Not only does it give us time to socialize together, to lift each other up, but it also is a fundraiser for our school, right? So we ask everybody who can come to please come and participate in that. Let's bow our heads really quickly as we begin. Dear Heavenly Father, you know that all of us are imperfect vessels, and from time to time we get the opportunity to hopefully show some of your perfect character. So this morning, Lord, let that be the case. We ask in Jesus' name, amen. You can see the title of my sermon up here today. It is Why. Not the question why, but the statement, or what is why. You see, it's been, as you can maybe notice a little bit today, I've been learning what it's like to have a 2-year-old run around the house again, right? And he's becoming extraordinarily verbal lately, right? He can basically say anything that you say to him. He can formulate his own questions. He can formulate his own statements. And I know that very, very quickly is coming that stage that all parents, I think, dread a little bit. And that is the, why, Daddy? Why, Daddy? Why, Daddy? Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Why does the car roll? And it got me thinking, wow, I'm about to have a lot of why in my life. As well as, lately, I would say that my work, my professional circle, my professional realm has become much more challenging than normal of late. You know, I don't categorize myself as a complainer, right? But lately, I would say that the stress level is as high as it's ever been. And so we've also been at work talking a lot about why, right? And in the professional realm, there is this kind of what I will call a why movement right now. And this why movement really revolves around this man's book. I don't know if any of you know Simon Sinek. He's written this book that talks about starting with your why, right? That really, much more important than what you do, is why you do what you do. So if you can get your organization to really understand it's why it is what it is, right? You can really move your organization, make changes within your organization, do things within your organization. I know that's hard to conceptualize a little bit. So actually I have a small, brief video to kind of see if we can get our minds around this idea of why as opposed to what.
The series is called How Do I Know? And a lot of times when people hear the phrase, how do I know, the next thing they say is what? How do I know what? But the key really isn't to know what, the key is to know why. Because when you know your why, you have options on what your what can be. For instance, my why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. My what is stand-up comedy. My what is writing books. My what can be going out with some friends to eat. In fact, another what that has moved me towards my why is a web series that we have out now called Break Time. So every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, you should subscribe to the channel. We do a series called Break Time on YouTube. So 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode. One episode in particular, I'm about to show you a clip to. We were in Winston-Salem. So Break Time, this is how it works. I travel the country, I do stand-up comedy, probably an hour and a half at an event. And in the middle of my show, I'll just sit down and start talking to the audience. And funny just happens. Or I'll meet somebody who's really interesting. So I met this one guy, and he said that he teaches music at a school. I was like, all right, you teach music, can you sing? And then I'm just gonna show you the clip. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing, you know what I'm saying? All right, all right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Right now I'm found, was blind, but now I see.
So I'm going to do a little teaching with you today, a little teaching strategy with all of you. Take a little bit of time. I want you to do what we call in the teaching realm a think, pair, share, right? So this is going to have two parts. The first part will last 27 seconds. For 27 seconds, we will have quiet reflection upon the video and the difference that you saw from the first time the man sang the song to the second time that the man sang the song. So we'll have 27 seconds. And then after that, we will have 1 minute and 7 seconds of sharing with your elbow partner, whoever is next to you, right? So 27 seconds of quiet reflection, 1 minute and 7 seconds, I'll transition you, I'll let you know when the time is left, of sharing with somebody. And in the end, we will use my teacher trick that I taught you 2 weeks ago. Does everybody remember? Yes, waterfall. When I say waterfall, you go. Because I don't shush you, you shush you, right? Okay, so you have 27 seconds quiet reflection on the difference you saw between the first time you saw the video and the second time. Okay, now I want you to get with your elbow partner, right next to your elbow partner, please, and you just share back and forth. Hey, what are some things that you saw, some differences you saw between the first time and the second time that man sang the song? And waterfall. I love that. It's really one of my absolute favorite things. Sorry. So, is anybody here willing to kind of just say out what is something that you noticed? So the second time you felt that there was more emotion behind what was taking place. Okay. Anything else? Purpose. I'm sorry. Invested. So I have more purpose, more invested in the song. Anything else? Personal experience, I'm hearing a couple times. I want everybody to get a chance. Came from the heart, right? Those are good, right? I actually, I was in a meeting in Lansing yesterday, and I saw this video just yesterday, believe it or not, right? And we did the same kind of activity, and these are some of the things that kind of came out of that, right? That this second time, it seemed to build a different level of passion, right? That it seemed to go longer, right? He was willing to sing for a lot of time. He seemed that he had more endurance, right? That it provided focus. It seemed that tapping into his why, right? Knowing the why behind what he was doing seemed to provide focus. It definitely cultivated inspiration. Did you notice the difference in the crowd from the first time to the second time of that song, right? That it moved others to action, right? People are getting up out of their seat. People are clapping. It was a very different kind of feel, right? So you're probably now saying to yourself, hey, I really like that. How do I figure out my why, right? How do I know what my why is? I would tell you that many organizations right now are spending a lot of money to try to figure out what their why is, right? They're hiring consultants, they're going on retreats, they're doing whatever they can to find out what is their why so they can make change take place within the organization. I would propose to you today that we already have a master consultant, right? And some of that, I think, is found right in the Bible. So let's get our Bibles out today. And let's start by taking a look at some of the parables that Jesus told to see if we can figure out the why. First, I'd like to start in Matthew 13 in verse 44. Matthew 13, verse 44 is the parable of the hidden treasure. And it says there that the kingdom of heaven is like the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. And when a man found it, he hid it again. And then in his joy he went and sold all that he had, and he bought the field. Moving on in Matthew, we can see the parable of the pearl, which is just the next verse. It says, and again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had, and he bought it. If we move over to Luke chapter 15, beginning in verse 8, is the parable of the lost coin. And there it says, or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Does she not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. And finally, let's flip back to Matthew 18. In Matthew 18, beginning in verse 10, it says, see that you do not look down see that you do not look down on one of these little ones, for I tell you that there are angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven, for the Son of Man has come to save that which was lost. What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hill and go to look for the ones that have wandered off? And if he finds it, I tell you the truth, he is happier about the one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should be lost. I think that these verses tell us a little bit about the why of Christ. What is the why of Christ? What is the why that is being depicted in these parables? What is the common theme that you saw in all four of these parables? The lost, right? Something was lost. I think that the why is to find the lost. Why Christ does what he does is that he finds the lost. And what does that result in, right? What does that why result in? Well, why always results in what, right? If the why is to find the lost, that results in obedience. That results in prayer. It results in faith, love, grace. It results in salvation, forgiveness, and reconciliation. There's another thing big thing kind of going around right now in education, and it's a study that's done by the researcher's name is John Hattie, and he's done what's called a meta-analysis. And a meta-analysis basically is they take all the research that has been done and they compile that research together into one research study to find out basically what kinds of things are having the greatest impact, right? And of course, this is really important in education, right? A lot of times in education, teachers encounter students who are behind what we call behind grade level, right? And we have to catch them up as quickly as we can, right? Because if they always stay behind grade level, they're never going to get to the point where they need to be. And so teachers in schools or in institutions, educational institutions, are always looking for what are the high leverage strategies, what are the things that we can do that will really motivate and really move along the learning of kids, right? And in this study, he's categorized hundreds of what you might call influences on education, right? Class size, socioeconomic status, cooperative learning, think, pair, share like we did today, right? All these different kinds of strategies, and what strategies have this big lever, this biggest effect on the growth of kids. And number one on the list of effect size is collective teacher efficacy, right? So efficacy is this kind of belief that you can make something happen, right? If you have a high self-efficacy, then that means as a person, you believe that you can influence things to happen. You can make a change, that things that you put your mind to, you can accomplish. And the highest lever for instruction, for getting students to grow the most, is what he is defining as collective teacher efficacy. And that is that a collective belief of all the teachers, right? So this is all the teachers in the school. They collectively believe in their ability to positively affect student outcomes, right? So it seems to make sense, right? If everybody in the organization believes that they can accomplish the goal, right? Then they accomplish the goal, right? And in education, this is hard for us, right? And I'm a teacher, I'll say it, as teachers, we like to make excuses. We really like some excuses, right? We really like they don't have good parents excuse, right? That's our number one, right? They come from that home where the parents don't value education, right? So, but collective teacher efficacy can overcome all of those things. It overcomes these major obstacles like, parents that don't care, or socioeconomic class, the previous learning, students that might have discipline issues. Collective teacher efficacy overcomes that. And actually, research is showing that in institutions where there is this high level of collective teacher efficacy, students are growing 3 to 4 years in 1 year, right? So this is powerful. This is a huge lever for us in education. I want to see if I can translate that to us here at Oakwood a little bit, right? So I've coined a new term. I'm calling it collective Oakwood efficacy. Collective Oakwood efficacy, and I'm defining it as the collective belief that the members of Oakwood have an ability, or the ability to positively affect others, right? Now, I was struggling with this definition, to be honest with you, right? I wanted to put in the lost in there, right? So that's why I have that in parentheses, right? Because I'm tying this back to the why. If the why of Christ is to find the lost, and if at Oakwood, the why of Oakwood is to find the lost, and we can use collective Oakwood efficacy, right? This belief that everybody who's sitting here today can find the lost and positively affect that, it would be a huge lever for the Oakwood Seventh-day Adventist Church. But I struggled with this word, the lost, right? Because it potentially implies that those of us in here are found, and those of us out of here are the ones that are lost, right? And I don't think that that's necessarily the case. And by that, I just want to say, I think there are many times that even though you're sitting in these pews, you're lost, right? Just being in the place does not make you found, right? So as we use our collective Oakwood efficacy, right, to empower our why of finding the lost, let's not forget that the lost are inside and outside of the building. So as a good teacher does, at the end, they don't give you the answers, right? I think if you read the parables of Christ, you don't see answers, you see questions, right? And so in conclusion today, I want to offer you 3 questions to think about, keeping in mind the why of Christ being the goal of finding the lost, and our power with our collective efficacy of Oakwood members to have a huge lever on accomplishing that why. Question number 1, could Oakwood have a common why of finding the lost? Could we do that? Is that something we could do? Question number 2, what would it look like if we had that common why? Would we look different than we look right now? If we all had this common why of finding the lost, would we act different? Would we look different? What would that look like? Because being able to picture what that looks like is really important in making that happen. And question number 3, what could Oakwood accomplish if everyone collectively believed we could find that which was lost? Let's bow our heads. Oh God, you are our God. Earnestly we seek you today. Our souls thirst for you. Our whole being longs for you. Because we have seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and glory, we can respond. Lord, your love is better than life itself, and we declare that our lips will glorify you. We will praise you as long as we live, and in your name we will lift up our hands to do your work. Amen.